Good morning, Pemmikins. Mr. Bruce here. Today we have one of my favorite books. In 130 readings of these, I have never read this book and it's one of my all-time favorites. So I give you today Dinosaur Bob and his adventure with the Lizardo family. But first, eyes watching, ears listening, voices quiet, body calm, mask taken off so I can read. Dinosaur Bob. Every year, before the start of baseball season, the Lizardo family would take a trip far from their home in Pimlico Hills. One afternoon, while out on a safari in Africa, young Scotty Lizardo wandered away from camp. He returned with a dinosaur. "Look what I caught," he said. "Can we keep him?" said Scotty's sisters Zelda and Velma. "I don't see why not," said Dr. Lizardo. "He looks kind of like my Uncle Bob," said Miss Lizardo. Jambu, their bodyguard, said nothing. Scotty patted the dinosaur on the nose and said, "Bob," and he tried. The dinosaur smiled and wagged his giant tail, so they named him Bob, as anyone would. With Bob along, safari life was fun. Swimming in the morning, games of baseball in the afternoon, and songs by the campfire before bed. When it came time to start for home, the Lizardos couldn't stand the thought of leaving Bob behind. "Would you like to come live with us, Bob?" asked Dr. Lizardo. "We'd love to have you," said Mrs. Lizardo. "You could play baseball for our home team, the Pimlico Pirates," said Scotty, Zelda, and Velma. Bob smiled again and wagged his giant tail. The journey back was grand. When the safari came to the banks of the River Nile, Dr. Lizardo said, "Let's go sailing." So they made Bob into a ship and steered him all the way down the river. But they couldn't sail Bob all the way home to Pimlico Hills, so Dr. Lizardo booked passage on a luxury liner. "Bob took us down the Nile in style," said the doctor. "It would be bad manners if we didn't return the favor." It was a wonderful sea voyage. Passengers danced a conga up and down Bob's back while he played trumpet, a gift from the ship's orchestra. Every evening, the children led Bob up to his berth in the ship's smokestacks and brought him little bedtime snacks: 2 peanut butter and bologna sandwiches and 400 double Dutch chocolate cakes. That was the snack. When the ship reached New York City, the Lizardos visited Central Park. After a light snack of 750 hot dogs, they caught a train to Pimlico Hills. It was Bob's first train ride. Reporters flocked to the Lizardo House in Pimlico Hills. "We'll scare the burglars off," Dr. Lizardo told them. "We'll use Bob. And he can blow a mean trumpet," said Zelda. "And he can dance too," said Velma and Miss Lizardo at the same time. "And he can play baseball," said Scotty. Jambu said nothing. The photographers' cameras flashed. "Lengthy lizard lands with Lizardos," read the headline in the paper. Bob was the most famous dinosaur ever. The next day, Bob and Lizardos played baseball in the backyard. Bob was terrific. He could play right field and left field at the same time. The Pimlico Pirates watched Bob play. They had never won a game. They were the worst team in history. But everyone in town loved them and went to all their games. "I wish the big guy in green could play for us," said one of the pirates. The following morning, Bob saw some neighborhood dogs chasing cars, and he decided to join them. He was stopped by a policeman. "Aren't you Lizardo's dinosaur?" Bob nodded. He was arrested for disturbing the peace. The policeman was very polite to ask him before if he was that dinosaur instead of some other dinosaur. Bob enjoyed being fingerprinted. He didn't understand he was in trouble. The Lizardos rushed to get Bob out of prison, but the chief of police would not let him go. "I'm sorry," the chief explained. "We can't have dinosaurs running wild in the streets. We'll be sending him back to Africa in the morning." Bob let out a sad howl. So did the Lizardos. Everyone, even the policeman, began to cry. No one really wanted to see Bob go. That night, no one at Lizardo's house could sleep. "Poor Bob," said Scotty. "All alone," said Velma. "Without his trumpet," said Zelma. Suddenly, Dr. Lizardo jumped up, grabbed his hat, and ran to the door. "Don't worry," said Mrs. Lizardo. "Your father never goes out in his pajamas unless he has a wonderful idea." Soon the doctor returned with the Pimlico pirates. "Come on," he whispered, "and be very quiet. I think I know how to save Bob." Bob's escape made headlines the following morning. "Lizardos and lizard on the lam, cops confused." The people in Pimlico Hills weren't worried. They were too busy thinking about the Pirates' opening game. The whole town was going there that afternoon, even the chief of police. As the stadium filled, no one noticed a large bump in the outfield. The team began to play. They ran on the field to the baseball diamond as the announcer called their names, and when the last of the team was called, the announcer said, "And now, the newest Pimlico Pirate is Dinosaur Bob." And the bump began to move his head up, and there stood Bob with a baseball cap on. The crowd roared. So did the chief of police. Bob smiled his big dinosaur grin, and the game began. The game was close. The Lizardos cheered Bob from the dugout and gave him water between innings. The Pirates were playing better than they ever had. They needed just one run to win the game when Dinosaur Bob stepped up to the bat. He swung with all his might. Crack! The ball went up, 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 clear out of the stadium, out of sight. It went so far it may have gone to the moon. We don't know. Bob rounded the bases with 3 great strides and touched his nose to home plate, and the Pirates had won the game. The Lizardos rushed into the field and hugged Bob, and the crowd cheered Bob all the way. The Lizardo's house and back. The chief of the police cheered at the loudest. Bob was now a hero. That evening, Bob and Lizardo celebrated by having a cookout in the backyard. After dinner, Jambu brought out musical instruments. Scotty on bongos, Bob on trumpet, everyone else on kazoos. Zoos. "Here's to Bob," said Dr. and Miss Lizardo. "The best ball player," said Velma. "The best pal," said Zelda. "And the best dinosaur a family ever had," said Scotty. Jambu smiled, but said nothing, and they all sang and danced late into the summer night. The end. The end. That has always been one of my favorite books. Dinosaur Bob and His Adventures with the Lizardo Family. And here is my question. Every time somebody talked and they all heard each other, guess what? Jambu never said anything. That's Jambu. He said nothing. What's he hiding? What do you think Jambu would say if he could talk? Would he say hi to you, or happy birthday, or Mr. Bruce is cool? What do you think Jambu would say? All right. It's the weekend now. I'll see you on Monday. Until then, be good to your folks and wash your hands. Bye-bye.